welcome to the live show. Good to have you here. As always, watching along from wherever you are in the world. I was showing off the map feature there that's coming soon still to H2R graphics, but it continues to be tested. You know what? I'll just show it a bit more now, and then we can flick through a few more people that are here in the chat so we can see where you're coming from. Hello from Germany. It's getting very busy over there in the Europe section, so all the little pins are it's getting busy there, which is nice. So good to have you all here watching along. I appreciate it. And let's see if there's any more coming in. A couple more. Great. Nice. Thanks for being here. Excellent. So in today's show, we are going to talk about a new project, very much in the early days, but it is now available online for you to test out and see if it works for you and if it works for your productions and all that good stuff. I'm just making sure that everything is working as I expect it to. Good, it is. It is called GFX.live, and I can go to that. I realize that I have all of my buttons hopefully ready to go. Where is that? Okay, cool. I'm just making sure my super source is what I want it to be. It is. So GFX.live. The idea here is it's going to be production graphics in your browser. So if you're familiar at all with H2R graphics, and if you've used that, I'm guessing many of you have, if you're watching along this live stream today, then you have seen or used H2R graphics at some point, which is great. But this is a slight sidestep from that, still in the same family and very much built on top of H2R graphics, the core, but it is its own solution called GFX.live. I have added a link below this video on the live YouTube link, so you can go to GFX.live and check out the landing page here. Some more information is coming soon to that. But my hope is that you can jump in there and click the Create a Project button and instantly get thrown into a project if everything is working correctly as I hope it is. And if you do have any issues with it as we go along, then do let me know in the chat here or over on Discord. It's always a good way to get in touch about the tools that you see and any feedback and features that you might want to add. I'm just going to run in through the GFX.live flow, and then I can come back and take a look at the chat and see if any questions have made their way in there. But like I said, you're welcome to jump and follow along with me as well. So if I click on the Create a Project button, it will generate a project. Now, you will be able to see the URL in the bar here, so I have decided not to use that project for the purposes of this live stream, since anyone could jump in and just change the graphics in that project based on the default setup. So if a project is just created by you in that moment and you're not logged in or something, anyone can just jump in with the URL and make a change. That's why I'm going to jump into this other project here, but it looks the exact same. And if you're familiar, like I said, with H2R graphics, then this may look somewhat similar and familiar to you as well. But what we have at the top here is an output, which is what you will see if you are a viewer or if you're using the graphics on an output. And then below that, we have all of the graphics associated with this project. And I can click and show and hide any of these graphics here. I could queue up a graphic by clicking on the status and then hitting run, and that will bring the graphic on air. Or I can do the opposite of that, queue it off air and then run it and send it off air. I can edit the graphics just like you can with H2R graphics. I can add new graphics as well. So you will notice that there are some here that would be a pro graphic in H2R graphics. That's because right now we're in early days testing this out, and I want to get as much feedback as I can over the next week or two before like a proper big launch of the tool. This is the launch, the soft launch, as it were. So you can jump in there and add as many graphics to the project as you want, and certain graphics that may be in the future considered pro ones for now are still available here. So for example, if I head in and add the now next then graphic, you'll see that the editor pops up for that, and I can make changes as I might want to, or I can just show the graphic in the output, and that's what it looks like, and it'll run through everything as you may expect it to. All right, so from there, jumping ahead a little bit, let's say you want to actually use these graphics in a production, and that's what's really nice about this completely web-based GFX.live, is that you can grab a URL and then paste that URL into vMix or OBS, or you could paste it into a YOLO box or whatever you use for your streaming setup. If it supports HTML browser overlays, then this will work very nicely with it, or at least it should. Let me know if it doesn't, and I can tinker with that and see if I can get that working. But in this little output section here, you can see I have my output URL, and this is a publicly available URL. You could, in theory, open this URL on your end right now, and what you would see is any graphics that I have shown on the output will be shown on the on this URL. So I can take this URL and paste it into, actually I have OBS running somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. It's playing a little video of myself on a loop, but I can paste that into a browser there. I'll just do GFX.live. Hit OK on that, and then paste in the URL. I'll choose 1920 by 1080, and there's a little note on the previous window there. You can just set like a BG color. So let me just zoom in here. If you don't want it to be transparent in the background, you can say BG equals, for example, the color lime, and I'll hit OK on that. And now I have my output in OBS. Now, of course, for my use case, I do want it to be a transparent background, so I'll just get rid of that little piece I added at the end, and now I have my graphics in OBS pretty quickly. And this is not working over the local network here, this is working over the internet as well. So I could, in theory, have OBS running on a computer at home and overlay the graphics through that. I was tinkering with this with AWS Media Live last week. It is a bit of a pain to set up if you've never used that tool before, but what that lets you do is send your video feed, like this live stream today. I could send it off to AWS. I can put graphics on top of that in AWS Media Live, and then I can stream that out to YouTube, for example. Something I'm going to keep playing with and see if I can make it easy enough for someone like yourself to use that. But it works quite well, and you can change the graphics and update them as you would want to. Cool. So I have the graphics in OBS right now, as you can see there. Oh, and previously on my phone here, I have loaded up the same URL. So this is, again, working over the internet, not working over the local network here. And if I cut to my phone, you can see I have that graphics project open, and you can just about see in the background there I have the OBS stuff, and I can show and hide graphics from anywhere and show messages. Oh, you can't see that, it's just off the screen there. And images and all the graphics that are currently available, which is really quite nice. Now, my reason really for heading down this direction is because, like I said before, with the Media Live solution, what I would love to do is take away the hardware that I use right now to add graphics to my live stream, and then let that happen in the cloud instead. So right now I use vMix to output my graphics and then overlay them onto my ATEM, and then I stream that to using the web presenter to YouTube. But I'd really like to go a little bit further and let all that stuff happen in the cloud, which would be quite nice. Okay, let me just see if there's any questions before I launch any further through the GFX.live demo. Not quite a question, but Stefan here saying, yet another tool, you're crazy thrilled. Nice to have you here. Doc says, I clicked on generate project and it's stuck on checking permissions. Oh, okay, I can take a look at that afterwards, after the stream, and see what's going on there. Maybe there's just like a little check that I didn't quite think of. But I will take a look at that for you, no problem. Ari says, will this be integrated with Companion as well? That is my intention for this. I will have to spin up another companion module to make it work. And in order to do that, I'm thinking if I kind of want to wait a little bit before doing that, because Companion is about to go into a new version 3 rewrite, which all the Companion modules will be rewritten for version 3. So I want to double check the time frame on that rewrite. And then if it's soon enough, I should just go straight into V3. And if it's not, then maybe a V2 would make sense before then. Let me see any other questions coming in here. Spartacus says, oh, maybe this was specifically to someone else. Weblink as a source, not sure it's working on an 810. Never checked. No, you can't do Weblink as a source on an 810, but you can on software solutions and stuff like that. And Philip J saying, would you be able to control it with OSC or some other protocol to use with Companion? At this point, I'm open to suggestions, actually. I haven't locked down the API control side of things outside of what you've seen already, the control in the web browser. So I haven't made any big decisions there, and I am keen to hear on what people would like, but I'm almost certain that many people would want the Companion control somehow, and I will certainly try to make that available first before heading down other control options. I might even make it easy enough API for now, and then I can make it more complex with variables and all that stuff as the time goes on. But I know that people do like their Companion control of as many things as possible. Okay, cool. I'll check back in a minute and see if more questions come in as we go on throughout the show. Cool. So I'm back over on my project here, app.gfx.live /p/the project ID. And I can edit any of these graphics, of course. So I'm just going to edit this one here. And whenever I do, I think it's keen. I'm keen to just go through a few of these things, because if you are playing with it and you have used H2R graphics before, there's a few things that are a little bit different. So for example here, this project change that I've made does require a save. Whenever it's a downloadable app, you can be a little bit more, you can push a lot more data around your private network, and it doesn't matter too much whenever you're running and building these kind of apps. But whenever it comes to everything being web-based, things are not changing on air as fast as I'm typing them. So for example here, you can see that John Barker here to record graphic just popped on the screen. But whenever I type, it doesn't change what's on there. So you can queue it up and change it to something else. Sean Parker, the other name I tend to use. And whenever you click save, that's whenever it's making that change on air. Cool. One thing I'd like to go into as well is some of the other graphic types here. So I do have a couple of specific time-based ones. You'll notice this is a bit different from previous applications, but what I've opted for here is splitting out the types of timers, and this really helps in terms of development. Each one is quite similar but different enough that when I make a change to one, I don't want to affect your timers online. I don't want to get in the way of any of them. I want to make sure everything is nice and clean and separated. So I've done that. So time of day is just a time of day, and it just shows the current time of day. But a count up or count down timer, for example, if I go into the countdown timer option here, I can choose what format it should be in. So in my case, it's just minute, minute, second, second. How long it should last for. So maybe I want it to just be 10 seconds. A little message, and then what happens at the end of that timer. So should it show the negative numbers? Should it hold on 0 whenever it's done, or should it reset it back to 10 seconds? I quite like the negative number option, because that way you can use it as like a stage timer or something along those lines. And what you'll notice now is whenever I show this timer on air, it holds on that 10 seconds. This is something people have asked me for a lot for H2R graphics. So I've added it here on GFX.live. So it will just hold that timer at 10 seconds until you actually start it yourself. And then the timer starts and runs down to 0. And we chose to let it show the negative numbers. So I'm going to wait long enough. I'm just filling time here while I wait for it to get to 0. Okay, so it goes into the minus time now, which is quite nice. Again, another feature people have asked me for timers for a long time. show a timer on screen, let me pause the timer and don't do anything, just leave it there. Let me restart the timer from the time I paused it, and then let me take it off air whenever I'm ready to take it off air. And in this case, you can actually take a timer off air and it'll just keep running in the background. It's running down to minus 30 seconds now. And when I show it back on the screen again, it will be back up, and it's still running where it was. So you kind of have two separate sides of control within your timers, which again, something people have wanted for a long time. And now I just reset that timer back to 10 seconds, and there you go. It's back to where we left it before. If you do have any questions, do be sure to tag here's record on them as well. It comes up much clearer on my screen here, and I can get to those questions. Cool. Oh, great. There's lots of questions coming in. I have it on a different screen here, so you never know until I go look at them if anyone's asking any questions. IT never gets old. It looks like the 5 graphic limit is not in place right now. Is that correct? That is correct. I actually just removed. I had that in place, but I just removed it for today and for the next week or so. So actually, that's a good point. I'll answer your question by going over to the website and just taking a look at the current pricing that is available. So if you're using the app today, if you try this out today or over the next week or so, then you won't really be affected by most of this. I've unlocked all of the features for the next week or so, just so people can try it out, keep testing it. Let me know of any problems, like the checking the permissions issue that a couple of people mentioned there on the stream earlier. But if we take a look at the pricing plans, this is sort of like a little asterisk to say to be confirmed at this point. Let me just move that out of the way for a second. What you'll see here is in the free version, if you haven't paid, if you just click through what you have today, then you can get 5 graphics per project. So there would be a limit of how many graphics you can put in one project. But I've just disabled that for the next week or so. So go crazy, put as many graphics in there as you please. And then I wanted to split things up and make it so that it's a bit more accessible for people who just want graphics for like the next 7 days for one event and don't want to get into a monthly subscription. The prices here you can take as they are for now. Maybe they'll change before these buttons are clickable, but for now they are listed as an event-based price, which means that you just pay for 7 days. You pay once. You don't subscribe for a monthly purchase. You just pay once. And then an alternative, of course, is like a pro pricing monthly or pay yearly, up to you. And that way it covers a bit more of a spectrum of people that want to use it. If you don't want to pay, you just want to launch in and get one timer on your screen, then the free version would be the best way to go there for that. If you want to just grab it for this weekend because you have an important show, but otherwise the free version would have been fine for you, then event-based is a good way to go. And then if you want to use it constantly, the subscription is a nice way to go too. Funny, one of the things that people have asked me for, whenever I asked how much would you pay for H2R graphics when the time came to launch that, and how often would you like to pay, just as many people said monthly as they said once in a license based. So I'm hoping with this I can have both options for people who only need it sometimes or those who constantly need it. I think that answers your question. IT never gets old. Thank you for that. Eric wants to know any thoughts on reducing pricing for those that already paying for H2R Graphics Pro. It's something I've thought about, definitely. I'm not entirely sure yet. The reason that this is not called H2R Graphics Cloud is because the product itself, GFX.live, is going to be different than H2R Graphics. It's not really a cloud version of H2R Graphics. If it was exactly that, then I definitely would have called it H2R Graphics Cloud, and that was kind of what I intended to go down the route of when I started this project. But it is actually it's not a replacement for it, and it's not going to make H2R Graphics redundant, which is a question I'll come to in a second. But the idea here is like you have the root of, I use a couple of PCs in my setup all the time, and I want to download this app and I want to use it offline, and that's my plan. Then H2R Graphics is definitely the better way to go. Whereas in this case, it's more like I have a team spread out throughout the world, and I want to throw graphics on top of the production, and I want to use certain specific graphics that maybe show up in GFX.live that won't make it into the download app. Then that would be the way to go as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of how different these products are. As for reduced pricing, already paying for H2R Graphics Pro, I don't have any concrete plans right now. I'm sure you have some good ideas. And Morton asks a similar question, I think, here. Do you intend to make this available for free to H2R graphics license owners? Not necessarily. Like I said, this I would consider this enough of a different product to be, like I said, it doesn't take away from the fact that H2R Graphics Pro is a paid, you can buy a paid license for that. That's really where I'm heading down the path of now. Okay, cool. Where did I miss anything? Yeah, Doc wants to know, so is this going to replace H2R Graphics? And this is one of the things I wanted to get to definitely on this live stream, because I don't want anyone who bought H2R Graphics in the last week, maybe, or today. I know someone bought a license today. If you bought it today, or if you bought it a month ago, if you bought it a year ago, I don't want this to feel like, okay, well, that's the end of H2R Graphics. This GFX.live is the new project. What a shame. The nice thing about this tool, GFX.live, is that some of the core functionality is shared between H2R Graphics and this GFX.live. So you'll notice that a lot of it feels similar, and some of that is just because of I didn't want to have to redesign all the buttons and redesign all those things again. It just makes sense for me to use my core components, development components that I've used. So it won't replace it, because it's sort of the two of them are working together in a sense. The core is the same in both of them, but the two will probably veer off in slightly different directions. When it comes to H2R Graphics, I'm constantly trying to think, like, does this feature work offline? Can you still use this feature offline? In the case of the map that I showed at the start of the show, that would be a very difficult one to use offline. But the now, next, then graphic that I added in the previous version of H2R Graphics, it works offline because the images are stored offline and all that stuff is stored offline. Whereas there will be features in GFX.live that only really make sense for a fully online tool. I haven't got any of those set in stone just yet, so I'm not going to chat about those just yet. But the two will share the same underlying core, and then on top of that, they're both valid products that I'll keep working on, because some features will make it into both, and some unfortunately won't. Abelay wants to know, can this also generate QR codes if link can't be shared over text? Yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of using the link, let me see here. What do I have? For example, this output URL, I can easily add like a little QR code scanner over here, so you could scan that instead of having to text this link to yourself or something along those lines. So that's a good idea. I could certainly add that for sure. IT never gets old. I see that on the time of day, I can use this format to show the date and time, month, day, year, and so on. Is there an option to show the day of the week? So I actually have over on that tool, I don't know if it's on there right now, but if it isn't, then I can certainly add it. I'm just going to add a time of day graphic here. And you'll notice that there's this little more formatting options button. If there's not a day of the week option in there, then I will add one to that document. But if there is, then it should be documented in that little link. All right. Lewis here, this is a good one. This seems to be a H2R Graphics competitor. How will this influence on your time investment on that? That is a good question. It does, in the at first sight, seem like a competitor to my own tool. But I think with some of the ideas that I have for this, for fully web-based graphics, whether that be pulling in data from audience members or those kind of things, I think that it'll be different enough that it won't fully compete with H2R graphics. Second, of course, it's okay if it competes with H2R graphics because they're both I own both of the tools, so that's okay for my purposes. But in terms of the time investment, all of the things that I've worked on right now for this GFX.live have been things that I've rewritten and reworked within H2R graphics as well to be better. So the two, whenever I develop for one, the two of them are open at the same time on my computer here. So it looks like, for now anyway, the two will continue to be developed together with each other. Like I said, there'll be departures for sure, but I tend to, so far, not open one without opening the other. So the time becomes not split, but spent evenly between the two. So I'm not worried about H2R graphics disappearing anytime soon. IT never gets old. Right now, they seem almost identical in functionality. Can you speculate how they will diverge over time? Yeah, that's a good point. They definitely seem similar right now, and that's because I didn't want to take any big leaps away from H2R graphics in this early version here. So I decided to stick to a lot of the core functionality in H2R graphics. Speculate. I think one of the main ways that I can see them becoming different over time is a lot of the interaction tools that I built that never truly made it into any product just yet. Those will become a part of GFX.live. So for example, right now if I wanted to poll you all with a question or a like a 50-50 poll of some sort, then it would be a lot easier to assume that I have internet access and I can grab that data and send you out a link to vote for a poll in GFX.live. So that would be an example of something that would definitely make it into that tool, but would be much harder to get right within H2R graphics. But I don't think I'll speculate much further than that for now. Martin, any chance of more features on the score portion of H2R graphics? Would love to have game clock and period options. Yeah, we were just talking about this on a development call today. A few of us hang out and chat about development, and we were just talking about how much scoring would be. There's so many possibilities in there, and one of the reasons that a lot of that stuff hasn't made it, and it's just I personally don't need or use much scoring things, and I don't want to venture down the path of scoring without getting it right. So it's one of those challenges that just will take time to really figure out the right option for, and I've been spending my time on tools like GFX.live instead. Will this have any abilities to custom animated graphics? Maybe that could be something that would make it into an online tool like this, but I don't have an answer for you just yet on that one. And IT never gets old here. The date and day of the week are not in this format. Options help, but you might consider them. Certainly. If you don't mind reminding me of that on email or Discord, then I will add those things in there, because I think that's, as far as I recall, that's easy enough to add on top of what I have. So do that, definitely. Chris says, it would be nice to have a delete graphic confirmation pop up, as it could be easy to delete your graphic if you're aiming for the edit button. You're absolutely right. And in fact, one of the things I've built into this that I haven't exposed as an option yet is recovery. So when it comes to when you delete a graphic, then it actually just tells it that it's deleted without actually deleting it right now. So I will add an option to retrieve a deleted graphic in the future. So that's a good point, though. I have thought about the confirmation pop-up, but if you want to run through and just delete a lot of graphics one after the other, then it does become very cumbersome to keep confirming a pop-up. But yeah, that's a good point. I have thought that through this time. I'll get that right. Han says, maybe open up so others can write some plugins like the scoreboard. That's a good way to think about it. I haven't really done that kind of like open up for plugins sort of architecture before, so I'll have to have a think about that, definitely. And yes, a few +1s for all in license does sound nice. Yeah, I can definitely think about a good way to do that. It is complicated in terms of payment providers, and the ones that I've chosen to right now, graphics and this tool are two different providers completely, which is unfortunate. So it would be very complicated on my end to figure out the best way to do that, but I'll have a think about it, definitely. Nicholas, regarding the Now Next Then, would be great to have the ability to manually shift the slides. Just percentage having a hard time to keep a pre-set up time. Absolutely, I have your feature request logged on my end. That is a good idea. I will definitely do that. Cool. Let me see if there's any more final things to show over on the GFX.live before we move things on. Oh yeah, so if you're logged in, what you'll see is an option for projects, and if you've claimed the project, then it will make its way into this this little project bin here. You can see I have lots of projects, and I haven't renamed any of them except for this one for today's live stream. And what you'll also notice is if you do go to this URL today, I have set that one for no access. But in general, if you create a project and then you open that project somewhere else, then you can access it just fine. Open it up on a different computer somewhere else and run the graphics, edit the graphics. Obviously, you want to be careful. And very soon I'll add that feature so you can lock down projects just so only you can edit them. That's a pretty important one, definitely. And of course, you have a theme builder as well. Now, this is something I'm definitely adding more and more stuff to in the coming weeks as well. But you can jump in and make changes to your themes. And if you've used H2R graphics in the past, this does seem very familiar to you as well, I'm sure. I can't see many things that will be different in the themes section. And my intention as well is to add the ability to import and export up and down themes. So if you've already built an amazing theme that you really like in H2R graphics, it's not available yet, but I'll make sure that you can actually add that into the system, because one of the best things about building both of these myself is that I can share the data between the two and make things work as they should. Cool. So let me just see if there's any last questions before we wrap things up. The show is coming to an end very soon. Henry wants to know, is it compatible with Dashmaster? You know, I've never actually tried it in Dashmaster. Let me see. If I copy my URL, I hope so. If it's not compatible, then I will be sure to talk to Lucas, and the two of us can figure out a way to make it compatible as an iframe. Sometimes by default websites are not compatible. Oh, but there you go. Good. Oh, you don't see that. No, you see it. I just made this little project here and opened this output as in the iframe option here. I can just paste in any URL I want, and I just chose the output of my project. And in fact, if I was to create a new project, I should be able to open the, I'll just go into one full window here. I should be able to open the project itself, but if not, yeah, there you go. So it opens up in Dashmaster nicely. So you could just open up this in one side and then something else on the other side, and you have it going in Dashmaster. Cool. Good question there coming in. Alrighty, so that's a little look at GFX.live. Do give it a play. There is an option at the bottom to send feedback if you have any issues. If you're getting stuck in the checking permissions problem, just send me an email with the browser you're using, and I can always take a look into that and see if there's something there that's going wrong in specific browsers or whatever the problem may be. Next week, hopefully we'll come live again and have more to share on that. And I'm hoping to hear plenty of feedback throughout the week so I can make changes and improvements and all that good stuff. Nice to hear people's initial thoughts. If you want to chat some more about this, you can join us over on the Zoom hangout, which happens for the next 30 minutes or so. You can get a link to that if you become a member of the channel and join us over there in a few minutes, where we're going to chat some more maybe about this or other things similar to this. Alrighty, good to have you here. I'm just looking for my... Oh wait, no, I have a button to end the show. Alright, see ya. Thanks for watching. Bye. And a big thanks, of course, to the Supreme supporters, Jeremy, Revolutionary Lightboards, Marlon, and Jim from Cloud Bedrock, and to all of you for chatting and asking your questions. Good to have you here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.